So I just unlocked a new cultural experience here in the Netherlands. And I must say this one was a rude awakening. It came with a rude awakening, if I should say it that way. And it has to do with the title of the video, which is getting your driver's license, or how not to get your driver's license in the Netherlands. So when you move to a new country, there are a few things that you must absolutely do as an adult or as a full functioning adult who wants to live somewhere else. There are a few things you must do. The first one is, you get a residence permit so that you can live legally and enjoy everything that the country has to offer legally. And then you find a home, which, of course, the housing crisis always comes up when a video, is made. Everybody talks about the housing crisis in the Netherlands. But yeah, you find a home. If you're lucky, you find it quickly. If you're not, then you are not very special because everybody struggles to find a home. And after finding a home, you register in a municipality or with a municipality. And then you go on to, do your insurance and every little bit of everything that you need to settle in properly. When it comes to integration, you must learn the language. Je moet de Nederlandse taal leren spreken. You have to. It's something you have to do if you want to make life easier here for you. Learn to read and write it. I'm still in the process of doing that. It's not easy, but yeah. And then when it comes to extra, something you might need, then there's the driver's license, which will make your life easier if you live somewhere that requires you to own a car or drive or even use it for work. Then you must get a driver's license. And this is where my rude awakening came. So last year, technically you don't need a driver's license in the Netherlands because the system and the transportation is so advanced and efficient 95% of the time, or 99% or 98% of the time, depending on where you live and how you experience transportation, that you don't actually need to own a car or need to drive unless you need it for work. And I mean, there's bicycles, there's trains, there's trams. You can walk. Everywhere is structured and planned in such a way that it's easier to move around without needing a car necessarily. However, my situation is different, or I'm one of those who wants to have a driver's license. And I'll give the backstory and the context. But before the context and the backstory, I want to have a driver's license because personally, I enjoy driving and my partner doesn't enjoy driving. When I mean the opposite of me in terms of driving, it's almost literal. Her whole body feels it when she's driving. She does not like driving at all. And I like driving. And I mean, we're a family and we have plans of, owning a car at some point. You needed to travel to other European countries. Luckily, the EU is built in such a way that you can travel to other European countries and visit, and you can drive to those countries, essentially. And I don't mind doing that. And she minds doing that. So yeah, we've been talking about it since we arrived last year that at some point I'll need to get my license. And this is where the whole experience begins. Now, this happened just yesterday. If you're watching this video now, today, it happened yesterday, which was a Thursday. Yeah. And before I get into the story of how this happened. So last year when we arrived, of course, I had a few friends from Ghana who live here. And one of them visited me where we were living at the time. We bounced around a lot in temporary residences or locations till we found our permanent house. And he visited me at the time and he drove there, and we were talking about, living here and how he's finding it so far. And driving came in because I remarked about, the fact that he drove here and, it's nice and everything. And he says, whoa, let me tell you this. Getting a license in the Netherlands, how did you describe it? It's... I don't have a perfect way to describe it, but he made me understand that it's one of the most difficult things you'll ever do. And he knows a couple of people, other Ghanaians, who have failed their driver's license, which is quite expensive, just so you know, which is quite expensive. They failed that driver's license several times, like more than 5 times. And I thought, come on, you can't possibly exaggerate this. I mean, more than 5 times? Like, how difficult is it, you know? And then he didn't go into the nitty-gritties, but I could feel, what he meant. Now I feel it even more after doing a trial drive or test drive yesterday to figure out how much driving lessons I would need, and, you know, writing the theory exam and all those things. I'm just going in the process of wanting to get a license, essentially. And in Ghana, the difference between, so this is for everybody watching or anybody watching who is from sub-Saharan Africa or in locations in Africa where your license cannot be transferred. So if you're watching this video and you come from a country, you do have to do your research. But some countries, especially in the EU and some other countries, don't require that you go through the whole driving process and testing again to get a license in the Netherlands. For you're lucky. Yeah, you're the favorites. You're lucky. You can just transfer your driver's license that you've received from another country and then go to the municipality, follow the process, and get a Dutch license. But for some of us, we need to prove that we can use Dutch roads, and we need to prove it well. In Ghana, you drive, and I wasn't exaggerating when I told my instructor yesterday that you drive by instinct. You know a road. I mean, you've learned how to drive, yes, but you know a road. There are instances where there are potholes on a road and you're driving at night and there's no street light, and you've driven on that road so long that you just know how to maneuver and go around, and, you know, by instinct, 90% by instinct and 10% skill. I mean, you have the skill, but you're using more of your instinct than anything. And when my wife moved to Ghana, and she, of course, per the Ghana law, and Netherlands being on the list of the countries where you can just transfer your license to a Ghana one when you are in Ghana, she could just, she just needed a letter from her employer, and then she could just transfer that license. And anytime we're in the car together, mind you, this is an automatic car because it's easier for her. So every car that I owned back when we were in Ghana made sure that it was automatic so that she doesn't have to struggle to drive it or move around, and it's easier for her. When we sit in the car and I'm in the car, there's almost a guarantee that we may fight or argue about the way she's driving because it takes so much from her. And it annoyed me at some point that she was driving in like it wasn't fluid or whatnot, and I would make comments and she would look over her shoulder, and I'm like, why are you looking over your shoulder? Your blind spot you don't always need to look over your shoulder. You don't need to. Like, that's where you have your rear view mirror, and that's where you have the side mirror and all those things. I've been making all these comments until yesterday when I sat in the car with the instructor and I found out that everything you think you know and do in a country you're from that is not, covered in the countries that can just transfer their license, drop it. It doesn't exist. You are going to have to do it from scratch. So the process here in the Netherlands is you write the theory exam. Luckily, the theory exam also comes in English. It's offered in English as well. You buy the book and you learn the road rules, the science, and all those things, and you write a theory exam. And the instructor also told me that there's also an option for you to go to the theory exam school, which makes it fairly easy to pass that theory exam. However, for him, he doesn't advise that always because the theory school teaches you to pass the exam and don't necessarily know the rules for real. So I could understand where he was coming from. And frankly, I do agree. They help you know what answers and everything, and then it's easy to pass. So no. But when we sat in the car, everything that I have learned to do as a driver, I had to unlearn in the car. And in that 1 hour that he was giving me the trial test, it's a manual car. I know how to drive a manual car, or so I thought. So he asked me, for example, to park the car, parallel park. When we sat in the car, there was a student he was with in the back seat. So when you sit in the car, you go and drop off that student. That's one of the things you would do. Luckily, it's in Utrecht, so same place. And we got to where the lady would come off or drop off, and I had to parallel park. And in my parallel parking instincts or habit, I did the one-handed, smooth, parked the car. And then lady got off. And then when the lady got off is when we started talking about what my experience has been in the car, how I think I'm faring, and what I need to know before, I'm graded on how many lessons I might need before, I can pass my practical exam if I'm to write it in the future. And it so happens that I clutch a lot because in Ghana, because I said we drive by instinct, I'm either shifting down or shifting up depending on where I am, or trying to be safe, shifting down to slow and maneuver, and shifting up to drive fast depending on the road if I know it very much and I know it's quiet and all those things. So I clutch a lot. And he didn't appreciate that at all. That was the first thing. The next thing that I was supposed to notice that I'm not paying so much attention to everything around me. I'm still automatically driving by instinct. Like I'm moving the car, I can see things. I can react fast, but his comment was, you don't need to react fast if you follow the rules and you pay attention. You don't need to drive and always be waiting to react. That is not a safe way to drive, So for example, in the Netherlands, if you are going right, if you're turning right, you need to look in your rearview mirror, look in your side mirror on the right, look over your shoulder, even before you signal, before you change the gear to a lower gear and do the maneuvering. After maneuvering, you have to always also look in the rearview mirror and then look on the side mirror on your left as a driver, so that you can see if there's somebody, overtaking you or going in the other lane, just to be safe. And you do this every single time that you drive. You have to do it. If you don't, you get failed in your practical exam. If you're turning left, you do the same thing. Look in the rearview mirror, look on your left. When you finish turning, you do the same thing. And I thought it was tedious. There's a lot to remember. And if you make a little mistake or you do it too much, then you're not getting your license. So yesterday, I got this rude awakening, and I now understood, first of all, a few things. My wife not liking driving at all because there's so much happening in your head and in your body, and by instinct or by, she doesn't just enjoy, she doesn't enjoy the whole process. That's fair. And now I also understood why she did a practical exam, I think about 5 times as well for her. And why other people, my friend had told me had been failing. Now everything is clear. So if you don't want to get your driver's license in the Netherlands, don't. But if you want not to get it, even though you want it, then continue thinking that you know how to drive and that you're okay, you're good. And you don't need so much lessons, or you don't need anybody to tell you any other thing. That's how not to get your driver's license in the Netherlands. You will fail. So just so you know, if you come from a country where you need to do your license tests in the Netherlands in order to be able to drive, throw everything you think you know out of the window and prepare to go through the fire before you come out ready to drive on Dutch roads. That is the new cultural experience that I have unlocked in the Netherlands. And it was brutal.